Alright, guys. Get myself all set up here. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We're going to double check this to confirm that you all hear me okay. How are you tonight on this beautiful Wednesday evening? We're starting the stream a little early. We're getting the live stream on a little early today. No big deal. Okay, so we are good. I hear audio. All is well. All is well in the world, really. All is well. That's coming through clear, too. Thank goodness. Happy Wednesday, guys. So, welcome. We got another beautiful episode of the TSR Go Green Restoration live stream. So, again, we're going to keep it positive, guys. Got some good news coming down the pipes. You know, I'm sure you guys are saturated in the bad news all the time. I want the point of this live stream to be optimistic and to find solutions to all of our modern quandaries and problems. So, a couple of topics, you know the drill. We're going to hit a couple of cool articles. I also have a really cool study that I want to go over with you guys from the ESA, which is the Ecological Society of America. And then, of course, we'll end with some little quick Terence reflection. So, obviously, this is a cool one here. This one is relevant to Midwesterners, it's relevant to everybody, but specifically people in Ohio. Looks like Norfolk Southern is going to take a $387 million charge in the first quarter due to the freight train. So I don't really know how they're going to be able to pay this out. They claim that they are helping the families there. Yeah, but I don't really know. You never really can trust these. So their shares are diving, which is, I guess, their revenue. So 3.13 billion in revenue. That's per year. They're only getting fined 350 mil, or that's the cost. I don't even know how much the fines are going to be really, but they sued last month. I mean, how can you really put a number on what the cost is going to be to make a repair of the environment? It's like a modern day Chernobyl type situations, guys. It's scary stuff, super scary stuff. So, yeah, we did Norfolk Southern. Boo, boo, boo on you. I guess all we can really do is ask to kind of hold them accountable. Hopefully they pay for it and don't cause any issues here. So. Any more issues going forward. Hopefully this prompts some sort of safety initiative for all of our rail systems. But moving on. So, more interesting, more useful, I think more relevant. Fungi. So yeah, we got the fungi that eats plastic in just 140 days. So our planet has a plastic problem, accumulated waste, constant production, resulting in amounts of trash in the globe. Recycling is a good step, but it's limited technology, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. Yeah, we all know the numbers there. But here we go. A group at the University of Sydney. Some interesting researchers. So Australians and our New Zealand friends. NPJ materials degradation. The research details results of using Aspergillus terres and Ergonodomium album on polypropylene plastic. The two species of fungi are common forms of mold. The team selected samples of polypropylene plastic that makes up to go containers, plastic film. Soft plastics is rarely recycled. These plastics take decades to degrade. The plastics were heated and treated with both UV radiation and phenol's chemical reagent. Next, the plastics were fed to the fungi, which allowed to incubate for 90 days. In 90 days, the plastics were 27% degraded. After 104 days, it was completely degraded. So, I mean, that's pretty fast. It's faster than anything that we can do. The mycelium is providing another outlet for us to fix our issues, our human societal destructive tendencies. Within 5 years, the team hopes fungi can be breaking down in the landfills across the country. So let's get a look at what these two are here. Let's get a look at these two pretty little mushrooms here. So this is just the mycelial growth here, huh? I guess they don't have fruit bodies. No, I guess they really don't. Maybe they just deploy their spores from the mycelium. Let's check out the other one. I'm still technically a novice in all this kind of stuff too. My botany identification, my mycelial identification knowledge isn't great. But I'm slowly learning. So interesting. So as we go on here, commercial applications could be used with even faster funding, political will. The mold solution could be pivotal for isolated areas which produce waste, but lack the infrastructure to space or house the waste. Other solutions such as plastic eating worms. Oh wow. Yeah, see? Here is Ali Abbas, Amir Farhan, Farzana Sakmat, making the noble and bold dive into the trash and trying to solve this problem. Very cool. So yeah, guys, super exciting. We're gonna keep our eyes on this story and these two fantastic fungi, and hopefully that continues to grow. I love this kind of stuff. So these are just modern solutions to big problems. Because our waste, I mean, we are hooked on plastic here, guys. I mean, everything we touch and see is plastic. And there's just got to be a better way. I mean, last week we talked about, hemp plastics and, really opening up the agricultural door to mass cultivation of hemp to solve the plastic problem. Mycelium here can solve some of this problem. But yeah, there's just better ways. There's better ways than plastic. So, if you guys are big fish out there and you have extra money too, if you're looking for companies to invest in, or you're willing to risk some of your money, I think that some of these companies or some of these, you're looking to donate, like in the University of Sydney here. This is great research. If you're doing well and you have extra money to throw around, get behind something like this. Super cool. Speaking of, we'll move on here to the really cool and interesting study. I found this on the ecology subreddit, but definitely going to be interested in checking out the ESA more and more here. So this is an article, a metric-based framework for climate-smart conservation planning. We got Kristen Camille Bonaf here, Daniel C. Dunn, Jason D. Everett, Isaac Brito Morales, Schumann, Jeffrey Henson, bunch of these here, a ton of authors on here. Also very recent, too, published on March 22nd. So, sorry guys, I digress. Climate change is already having a profound effect on biodiversity, but climate change adaptation is yet to be fully incorporated into area-based management tools used to conserve biodiversity, such as protected areas. One main obstacle is the lack of consensus regarding how impacts of climate change can be included in spatial conservation plans. We propose a climate-smart framework that prioritizes the protection of the climate refugia areas of low climate exposure and high biodiversity retention using climate metrics. We explore 4 aspects of climate-smart conversation: climate model ensembles, multiple emission scenarios, climate metrics, and approaches to identifying climate refugia. We illustrate this framework in the Western Pacific Ocean as equally applicable to terrestrial systems. We found that all aspects of climate-smart conservation planning considered effective configuration of spatial plans. The choice of climate metrics and approaches to identify refugia have large effects in the resulting climate-smart spatial plans, whereas the choice of climate models and emission scenarios have smaller effects. So yeah, big-time problems with the warming, the ozone acidification. They're using these models to the degree the efficiency to meet conservation targets. Hence, the choice of approach dependent on relative value of stakeholders' place. By using this framework, protected areas can be designed and improved with longevity and thus safeguard biodiversity against current and future climate change. We hope that the proposed climate-smart framework helps transition conservation planning towards climate-smart approaches. Yeah, so I mean, this is pretty interesting here, guys. They get a bunch of big minds, big ideas coming together. You know, whether you believe in climate change or not, I mean, it's crazy that people. So I mean, obviously climate change is real. Look at the long span of history. You know, I guess the big argument is whether man is having an exceedingly effect on it is the big question. And of course we are. I mean, just look at how much pollution we produce. Look at so many places that we've ruined all across the globe. So many future places that we're going to ruin. I mean, we've got giant floating garbage Pacific patches that are just the size of countries floating around out here. I mean, we're not doing it right. So, whatever side of the argument you on, I think we can all get behind wanting a beautiful, clean Mother Gaia planet Earth for ourselves and for future generations, handed down by our ancestors one by one. We need to maintain and restore the planet to the best of our ability, because we, you know, at least currently in modernity, we seem to be doing quite a bit of damage as compared to our lengthy history as a species. But I digress again. So climate change is a major threat to biodiversity. Although protected areas have long been used to safeguard biodiversity, climate change reduces their effectiveness by exposing biodiversity to a suite of environmental changes, including changes in rainfall, increasing ocean acidification, deoxidization. Climate warming primarily drives species range shifts. Yeah, but protected areas need to be designed explicitly the amount of climate exposure and species retention. However, there is currently little consensus on how to implement this goal. Yeah, I mean, and this is, thank God some of the brighter minds out there are finally pooling together resources and putting together studies and papers like this, and you know, better men and women than I, that's for sure. At my little scale here, I just try to do what I can on my micro scale with my micro brain. Do what I can to reduce my consumption and consciously invest in companies that are getting smart about this, and do my little part of my little detrash cleanups and recycling as much as I can. But these are the smart guys here. These are the ones that we need to be dealing with. So you know, here, covering risk and uncertainty, ecologically or economically important species, heterogeneous environments, redundant areas with ranges of climate exposure. Interesting. So it looks, yeah, as there's tons of figures here, tons of data that they compiled. This is where they break down the climate smart framework itself. So step one is the projections, so building the models, emission scenarios based on, you know, current outputs and inputs, climate variables, you know, calculate the metrics and then identify how to fix it, penalties, percentiles. Model outputs are extracted based on selected climate projections and are used to calculate climate metrics to identify, what is this? Yeah, see, so some of these are so difficult to read and understand. Workflows are the different approaches of identifying. Looks like they're building equations here. Percentile thresholds akin to assigning representation targets for the biodiversity features that could go on through a base area policy targets following 30 by 30 set by CBD expert-based thresholds. Population viability analysis. Very interesting. And look, yeah, so it looks like this study, they're specifically applying this to the Western Pacific. The planning domain was the epipelagic layer of the Western Pacific with 42,540 planning units, each covering 670 kilometers, using the Mulwheel, the cool area projection. We use current distribution maps from Aqua Maps. Okay, so they're teaming up with those guys. Shout out, yeah, obviously NOAA. NOAA is involved in almost all of these studies. Different climate models suggest different environmental futures. Yeah, I mean, from all the studies that I've seen, it's 2030. So we're at 2023 right now, and 2030 is the big number that everybody likes to talk about when they're doing these models. And I mean, I guess if all this kind of stuff is implemented properly, we can maybe potentially save it by 2030. But based on our current output and all of it, nobody, I guess maybe some countries are hitting their goals, but it sure doesn't feel like it. You know, if oil companies are still turning record profits every year and selling more and more oil, and there's more and more people to distribute that oil that are soaking on all this energy, then we can't be really making any good strides. Not to mention all the geoengineering experiments that they got going on to try to solve the problem, or which end up actually multiplying the problem. So it's super interesting how they build these models and when they drop these dates. Climate war. I mean, the ocean acidification, this one's the most terrifying one. Because this kills off everything in the ocean when the ocean acidifies. Yeah, and the deoxygenation. I've read other studies that, it's terrifying stuff. The methane leaks that are occurring. I mean, we've got all these pipelines, and up in the Arctic there's potential little miniature natural earth nukes that could really cause problems if we start setting those things off. So we've got to start being more conscientious about this kind of stuff. So how this goes on. They're using the sum cumulative MHW intensity to measure long-term exposure to acute warming events, as the frequency and magnitude of the temperature anomalies vary non-linearly through the time depending on the emission scenario. Impacts are better represented by the sum of intensities than by the rate of change. We calculated this metric using the heat wave R package. A lot more equations that they're building to kind of measure this stuff, I guess, when they're using. So yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I feel like such a nerd. Okay, so this looks like it's a readable graph for a simpleton like me. Okay, yeah, this was the scale they were talking about earlier, or the metric that they were measuring all this by. So the percentage, the feature, the CPA, and the penalty all don't look good as far in the ocean acidification sector here. Deoxygenation, that's also nicht gut. So yeah. Exploring different approaches, performance of different approaches across metrics. Colored polygons represent values of different climate metrics. Grayed polygons represent values for areas not selected for protection. The dashed and dotted lines represent the mean and median for velocity for values across planning units that were selected and not selected, respectively. The plots on the right of each of 5 metrics show the kernel density estimates of the percentage protection of biodiversity features. Dashed line represents 30% protection target. CPA, climate priority area. FEAT, feature PEN penalty per percentile. Yeah, so that's kind of what we were looking at here. The dotted line represents what? The mean median for velocity values across planning units that were selected and not selected respectively. The plots on the right of each of the 5 metrics show the kernel density estimates for the protection of percentage. Okay, yeah. Protection percentage, so I guess to the right of the dotted line. Climate models. Wow, see now, if this isn't gibberish to the average person, I don't know what is. Non-metric multidimensional scaling, NMDS. Function plots comparing 432 spatial plans across all combinations of options considered. Solutions by A scenario, B individual climate models, ensemble mean, climate metrics, D approaches identifying figure. I mean, still means. Okay. Overview of the options explored under each climate smart aspect. Okay, let's get to the readable English stuff here, huh? Emission scenarios produces a suite of solutions to conservation problems, more analysis and is more complex. Established as best practice. So yeah, it looks like metric. They're trying to do this metric-based one. Priority areas. Looks like, yeah, this looks like a pretty good way to identify priority areas that need to be maintained. Similar with spatial plans using chronic exposure, but generally negatively impacts ecosystems. However, its impact can also be positive or neutral for some species influenced by anthropogenic activities other than climate change. Oh wow, that's interesting. Yeah, so maybe some species thrive with a more acidic ocean. Can't imagine that that's true, but some organisms may be insensitive to small declines, but all suffer psychological stress once oxygen levels decline past the hypoxic threshold. Yeah, so I mean, this is what you really got to worry about is the deoxygenation, because the physiological stress, these species can't survive. So we need to create legions of the fungi to come save us. Just become merge species with the fungi to save the world. Create perfect coexistence. So yeah, this one's super interesting. Let's eat away at the plastic here. Lots of chemistry for all of the big brain geniuses out there. So we're gonna go ahead and skip that part and stick to the fun, fancy stuff. The eloquent words of the good old Terence McKenna is how we'll end tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed that little study. Definitely go check it out. If you want to read the whole thing, I was just kind of blopping through it. And, you know, for those of you that obviously learned and highly intelligent, you probably get a lot more of the nice, beautiful, buttery, juicy details in there and get more out of that. But I just like to pull the main motifs and big overall things out of it when I read something like this, and add it to the data bank of knowledge back there in the brain. But yeah, ESA, guys, check it out. So we'll get a little bit of Terrence here, guys, and then you can enjoy the rest of your evening with his beautiful insight fresh in your mind. So let's get rid of the lo-fi here for a second. This is the, what is this one? I think it's something about, yeah, live at the Wetlands Preserve in New York City. I think this was in like 91 he did this one. So the only way we can essentially redeem what history has done to us is to carry the understanding that wrought back into the enterprise of the human, of creating sane system of education, of resource extraction, of healthcare, and of community value. If we don't carry the experience of history back into those domains, history will continue. I remember once when I was fighting a radical in the streets of Berkeley, and someone had let a banner down over the front of the building. It was a quote from Jean-Paul Sartre. It said, "Socialism will not be transcended until we transcend the conditions which created it." True. History even more true. And at the moment, the dialogue about the transformation of the species and the integration of the communication technologies and biotechnologies, all this stuff, how it's going to work, is in the hands of short-sighted profiteering institutions that are not particularly interested in your welfare or my welfare. In fact, I don't know if you've noticed, but nobody is particularly interested in your welfare or my welfare in terms of the intellectual environment of risk through which you move every day. I mean, the number of cons you're offered, the number of people who prey upon you, all these things indicate that the culture has not yet realized the power of its own possibilities. How will it realize the power of its own possibilities? I'm at this point pretty fatalistic, though, through time. I mean, I don't feel that I have to be here tonight, or you have to listen tonight for us to come around to any kind of corner. The momentum is now inevitable. Now it's about to be each of us individually arranging the furniture of our own mind to deal with what has become the inevitable. It wasn't inevitable, but the 20th century made it inevitable through the Holocaust, modernism, psychedelic drugs, syncopated music, dislocation of time, space through media. All of this has now made this transformation inevitable. The human being adapted to the savannas of Africa 120,000 years ago is dragged forward into the future by all this. And if you can get through life without trauma, heartbreak, agony, murderous rage, fury, betrayal, etc., you're a better man or woman than I am, for sure. I don't think anybody can get through the narrow neck of incarnation in a body, but more trying incarnation inside historical society that is cannibalistic and low-intentioned, and with values that are completely formed and modeled on the marketplace. So I think that out of all this time, I feel a great change. I try to monitor it, especially with the realm of society and technology. Everything is redefined every 30 days, every 60 days. Redefined towards some kind of singularity, some kind of extraordinary moment in the fractal pattern of history unfoldment. You know, fractals are always repetitious, always low levels build to higher levels, but nevertheless intrinsically to the pattern. There comes a moment where there is an hypothesis, a breakthrough to a new level of understanding. And then, whatever the old world was, it simply dissipates, goes away. Not that there isn't political struggle, but once, let's call it karmic underpinnings of a historical position, especially an oppressive historical position, once those underpinnings are articulated, revealed, shown in the light of day, then the game cannot continue. And I feel like we are, interestingly, in a calendrical moment where we can experience the calendar's transformation, or we can use it. And as others are using it, we put forward the idea that certain things are now obsolete, no longer to be practiced outside the confines of the 20th century, not part of the third millennium. And I'm thinking of fascism, sexism, racism, and all the division-based consequences of old-style politics. I mean, this right here, guys. I don't know how he just puts it so eloquently. It's fascinating. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And I feel like we are interestingly in this calendrical moment. We can experience the calendar's transformation, or we can use it, as others are using it, to put forward the idea that certain things are now obsolete, no longer to be practiced outside the confines of the 20th century, not part of the third millennium. And I'm thinking of fascism, sexism, racism, and all the division-based consequences of old-style politics. I mean, and that includes everything in modernity here, guys. Everything. Even anarchy, communism, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, all the Abrahamic religions, Islam, just all these old ideologies and all these old dogmas that really have now all morphed into some corporate fascist state where it's a global corporate takeover. Throughout the 20th century, they've achieved their goals. Whether ill-intentioned or not, that's the reality where we're at. But that being said, maybe there's a way to fix it. And if we can just now, going into the third millennium, reject the style of politics and have some sort of archaic revival, maybe able to save this ship. And the people say, where then do the psychedelic drugs fit into all this? Do they fit in? Of course they fit in, because the felt presence of experience. Yeah, right here, the mantra, the Terence mantra. Take 5 dry grams, and reclaiming of the body, that's the critical political background. Your mind is now your own, in some sense. It was a mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. But the acceleration of the psychedelic use in the 20th century, the explosive spread of the internet, and in some sense, it is though we have broken from the slaves' quarters and are already milling in the streets. But we do not yet have the power of the understanding to know where the centers of power are and how it is that they disempower and manipulate us. And that's because we haven't focused on the body. The body, and this, I suppose, then is the thing which gives the eros this contingency. The body is the battleground for these various definitions of humanness. The eros, representing the erotic celebration of diversity, is a terrifying specter to hold up in the front of the order-crazed, constipated hierarchists who actually have the illusion that their own enterprise, and nevertheless, that they own this enterprise. I mean, that's so true. That's the current existence, and that's why they're terrified of psychedelics for the most part. Nevertheless, this is what they're looking toward. This is what was made inevitable by their own rapaciousness in the past, that they painted us so quickly into a corner of resource extraction, disgust with media manipulation, that a breakout was inevitable and had to come. Yeah, guys, I mean, I don't think this thing is obviously... this thing's in nobody's control. This existence is there's no human beings at the helm of this. There's ancient mysteries of which no one knows, and there are many forces at play, despite order crazed hierarchists and conspiracists and evil men and women who are oozing at the destruction of everything, and wanting and their ideas of owning it. The psychedelic experience and what it does in the post experience of existence. And I don't know, everybody talks about ego death. That's one of the most commonly stated things. And sure, it can do that, but can also give you an ego boost. I like to say that it kind of just merges the individual ego with what is the collect. It gives you an understanding of what the collective ego is, and how human beings, our experience is really no different, and it's the same experience in the immediate moment as plants and animals. Or even if you expound on that, all matter, all rocks, space, light, dust, we're all kind of made out of the same compounds, and finite details of the ether. And that builds up and gives you an identity, and it tells it, like Terence talks about this too, how it tells you how you are the sun, and in your mind you have the ability to unlock untold beautiful worlds, because your imagination is so powerful and you matter. It basically tells you you matter, instead of all these old dogmas that tell you you don't matter, and try to hold you down, and use nature against you. I think that's a silly way of doing things. Going into the third millennium, I think we need to embrace the psychedelic experiences and embrace the ideas that we are all need to work as a collective one, as a species and as a planet and as a universe, because we're all in this little experience together, and we're all experiencing each other at the same time. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Wonderful movie. Go check it out. It's kind of a cinema version of what I'm trying to say. That being said, moving on, I digress. Where did we go? We lost it. Let's just end it there. I think that's a good spot to end, guys. I hope you enjoyed Terence's little... he's just got endless amounts of material. I highly recommend that you guys check out his stuff. Especially listen to him in the evenings with a hot cup of tea or some coffee, and maybe just listen to a couple of his speeches, and that kind of gets me in the mood and motivates me to do some reading afterwards, or a little bit of extra research, and it just puts me in a mood to want to fill my imagination up with knowledge, and kind of contribute to the Gaian mind, if you call it that, the universal felt presence of immediate experience. And do some meditations, and do some breathing techniques, do some reading. I find that for me personally, the evening is the best time to kind of do all that stuff as it winds down. But any time of day works too. I also like meditating in the day as well, and turning on a quick Terence talk, or open up a quick, getting a couple of chapters in, filling it into our busy lives. I think that's so important nowadays, and to if possible, do all that, do all your reading, and do all your meditating, and do all your exercising outside if you can, especially now going into the spring and the summertime. I think that's so important for us to reconnect with the natural world. Despite it being a different world here in modernity, we need to merge into the third millennium and live in harmony with each other and with the planet. So there's definitely some positive things to look forward to, guys. I think it's achievable. We just got to conquer some of our demons, and we'll be all good. The future is bright. So, love you guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure we're living that green revolution, y'all. And we'll see you next time. Bye.